Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another Level Up Webinar Wednesday. Can you believe we're in the month of December already? The month we call the most wonderful time of the year, where people are generous or more generous. There is a spirit of giving and sharing, moments of forgiveness. And in this time where there is conflict and war, December is a time for peace. Most importantly, we commemorate the best example of giving, the birth of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. So I am your host, Audra Mitchell, Vice President of Learning and Development and General Manager of the Massy Learning Institute. And today we are excited to bring to you our session entitled Ending 2023 on a High, Even If You Didn't Hit All Your Goals. All right. So yes, December is also a time for reflection, a time to look over your goals from the past year. What did you complete? What went well? What mistakes did you make? What have you learned along the way? And then, what are your intentions, our intentions for 2024? As we get into our webinar, we encourage you to participate by posting your questions and comments. And please note, a recording of this webinar will be available on the MLI website and YouTube channel post-session. So our presenter today, it is our privilege to welcome our presenter, Ms. Leah de Souza, a vibrant individual with an infectious personality. And as we go through our webinar, you'll see why we say that. Leah is the only certified professional in talent development in Trinidad and Tobago, and she brings over 15 years of experience to every client solution, whether it be designing training programs, leading team retreats, coaching people leaders, or conducting 360-degree feedback surveys. Leah is also the creator of the Like a Boss, lovely name, Like a Boss programs designed exclusively for entrepreneurs who want to find balance in their business and life. And when she's not working with her clients, well, she enjoys reading, exercising, foreign language study, and traveling. Ladies and gents, I'd like to warmly welcome Leah de Souza this morning. Leah, thank you for accepting our invitation to present to our Massy family today. Over to you, Leah. Oh, Leah, you're muted. Right.
Thank you so much, Audra, and good day 100 and all at this Level Up Wednesday. I am so thrilled to be with you all, and I'm super thrilled that so many of you have signed up for this particular topic. Now, we have limited time together, and it is a powerful topic, so I am going to dive right into it. I know that Audra mentioned that you could put your questions in the chat. I'm not going to be seeing the chat right now, but I'll definitely be looking once I'm done with my presentation. So let's get into it. And first thing I want to make really clear is that if you are here, chances are you did not hit all your goals for 2023. And Audra, I'm putting up my hand as well, okay? But I want you to let you know that this is a judgment-free zone. We are here, it is a safe space, and it's totally okay and normal if you didn't hit all and every single one of your goals. But I want to make something clear. If you are here, it tells me that you are a growth-minded individual and that you want more for yourself and that you actually know that you are capable of more. And that is all good stuff. And that's really what I want to tap into and stay in that place with you for our time together. I will say, I'm not going to pretend to have all the answers on what it takes to actually make sure you hit 2023, you know, you on a high still, but I am going to share what has worked for me, what has worked for my clients, and as Audra said, building on my 15-year plus experience doing this. So let me dive into it. Now, that being said, I will say, Even though, yes, I just said it's a safe space, this is not your get out of jail free card. There is going to be some work, people. I am going to make sure that I'm going to be calling on you for your commitment to truly wanting to end 2023 on a high. And also I'm going to be looking for some energy and action, because nothing really happens without action, right? Okay, now what you will not hear me saying during this particular our time together are things like up on the screen. So you're not going to hear me say, give yourself grace. I'm not going to be telling you to just, if you want to end 2023 on a high, to just manifest it and send it out into the universe. Now, I'm not saying that anything is wrong with these beliefs or these statements, but they're not part of my system. So you're not going to hear me say them. What you will hear me calling on throughout, though, is for a lot of compassion. And what I want to just focus on is everything that I'm going to be inviting you to do on your own, that you bring compassion into it. And I just want to pause to reflect on what is the actual meaning of the word compassion. So the meaning of compassion is to recognize suffering and pain, and then to take action to help. So we must first, when we are thinking about being compassionate, and the exercises I'm going to have you reflecting on towards yourself. So the focus is self-compassion. There may be moments where I have you reflect on something, and it does cause, I like to say, a negative type of way feeling, right? So a negative type of feeling, pain, discomfort, awkwardness, but that you recognize it. And then we're always going to be focusing on actions to take to get through it. Okay, but as I said, I like to keep it real. Why? I'm a business driver. I demand a lot of myself. My clients demand a lot of me, and I exist in the business world just like you, right? And in the business world, we have to keep it real. And good business is driven by data and strategy. And those are two things that we're going to be focusing on to make sure that we end 2023 on a high. And I'm going to say we're going to add something into the mix. Once again, we're going to be looking at making sure that you do achieve some goals for the next 19 days, that there is a mix of data, strategy, and compassion. So let's dive into it. Are you ready? You have your notepads out? Yes. I can see one person there. Great. So the first thing I'm going to ask you to do, this might be the hardest exercise. It's probably going to take the longest to accomplish as well. But I'm going to tell you something, it is going to be oh so worth it. Like, if you take notes now and you do this over the next 2 weeks or so, I am almost sure that some of you are going to be messaging me, emailing me, whether on the socials, whatever, and saying, Leah, I am so glad that I went through this exercise in entirety. It is going to require a lot of energy and a lot of focus, but let's dive into it. And the first thing I'm going to have you do is something that is actually part of my Likeable system. And I say it takes the longest because when I'm working with a client, this is not something that happens like that. It takes a while to get into it. And it is called Face the Mirror. Now, it is a skill that actually does not come naturally when we have to do it ourselves. It's very easy when we have to do it for other people. It is a learned skill, and it is something that you want to practice if you want to get better at achieving all your goals. And what it is, and actually Audra alluded to just now, which is a form of review, I like to call it, it is radical honesty with yourself. And I always say self with a capital S. So it is an exercise where I'm going to invite you to be radically honest with yourself, something that you might want to take notes, in an area where maybe nobody's going to see what you're going to write because it's just your thoughts. But if you think about it, the mirror shows us what is truly there. And I'm inviting you to look at what is truly there. And it's 2023, no filters, people. We're just going to be looking in the mirror. Yes, the filters do come in handy, but not today. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to go through 3 different phases of facing the mirror. Before I dive into it, you're going to see the word goal up on the screen. Now, people can be very sensitive with certain words. I'm one of those people, sometimes the word really doesn't matter. So I might use the word goal. If you like the word objective, resolution, KPI, intention, whatever word works for you, run with it. I am just going to use the word goal for my particular exercise today. And the first thing that we're going to face the mirror on are your 2023 goals. And a couple questions. Do you know exactly what are or were your 2023 goals in both your career and your personal life? And I'm not saying what would your wishes for the year. I'm actually saying, is there somewhere you can go right now, whether it be on your phone, in a journal, somewhere in a Word document where you actually wrote down your specific SMART goals for the year? So just reflect on that. And if it is that the answer to that is, Leah, no, I never wrote them, that's okay. Remember, we're in a judgment-free zone. I'm not attaching any judgment. Just answer the question and hold it, because there's going to be a learning in there, right? The second one I want to focus on is, what was your strategy for setting your goals? This particular area of goal setting, how do I actually set goals? That in itself is a skill on its own. And I'll want to know the goals that you set. How did you actually pick them? What was the process or system that you used to know, okay, these are the buckets in my life that I need to focus on? Why? We wouldn't want that we entering a year focusing on buckets in our life that actually are on autopilot. So if there's an area of your life that is doing really well and you keep focusing on that versus focusing, on those things that really need your attention, we're going to be putting more energy into places that I'm doing good in instead of putting energy into places that really need your support. So that's it. And a question in your goal setting strategy would be, how the type of goals are you that you're setting. So I always like to say that you want to find a sweet spot between realistic and ambitious. So you want to get really good at setting realistic goals. Why? We do not want to set up ourselves for failure and disappointment, but at the same time, we want to get really good at setting goals that sort of, give us a push in our butt, that kind of say, okay, I need to kind of get up and work on this. And that takes a lot of practice, getting that sweet spot. That takes a lot, again, of radical honesty, because only you, no matter who you might share your goals with, your boss, your loved ones, your friends, etc., only you know deep down what would be truly realistic yet ambitious for you. And the last thing in terms of your goal setting strategy, I think is really important, is whose goals are you setting? So when we come in, then we just talk about how I set goals, right? When we come in here, when I sit down to set goals, am I setting goals based on what society expects of me at this stage in my life and career? Is it what my friends and family expects of me? Am I setting goals based on what I'm seeing on social media? Let's be real, people. It influences us, right? So this is important. Why? If you are setting goals that are not in alignment with your values and what you truly want for yourself, I don't have much time, people, so I have to say the truth. You're not going to stick with them, right? There's going to be like a oomph of adrenaline in the beginning, but then something sort of just, that steam goes out of the train, right, of your going towards your goals. And that comes down to, a lot of times, it could be the strategy, but it could also just be they're just not your goals that you're working on. So you're not going to stick with them. So that's a really important one to look at. It is your actual strategy for how you went about setting the goals. And the last part of the face the mirror, I know I'm asking you a lot of questions, a lot of reflection, but the last part in here is, what was your system for executing those goals? So I hope you're seeing now that there are two different strategies right now. There's the goal setting and then there's the execution strategy. And your execution system is the system of how you manage your tasks and review your performance. Very important. And I'm always talking about in both your career and your personal life. I look at both of them at the same time. So a couple of things you want to consider in your execution system could be something as simple as, are you including your career and personal tasks on one calendar? And I'm going to give you a huge tip. You should only be using one calendar for everything. Whatever calendar you use, whether it's paper-based, whether it is an online one, it doesn't really matter. But the point is, everything that is you should be in one place. Also, are you using a calendar with time slots? So I'm kind of against to-do lists, actually. I've probably only met one person in my entire lifetime who has successfully built a career in business by using a to-do list. Everybody else, for the rest of us, we have to use calendars with time slots. If we're not using calendars with time slots to manage our tasks and review performance, we're not existing in reality. A couple other things that you want to make sure that are in your execution system. How often are you actually doing reviews? So personally, when I work with my clients, we are doing weekly reviews on their performance, weekly. So all the goals that they set, they are reviewed on a weekly basis. Why? Because we want to make sure that we're building up that muscle, the ability to review performance. So it's almost like working out at the gym. If you want to have certain goals on Carnival coming up, right? If you have certain goals, let's face it, working out once and reviewing your performance once every 3 weeks is not going to cut it, right? You have to put in the time. So reviewing your performance should be a weekly activity. Also, how are you actually tracking your performance on these goals? And there are different systems you could use. I could show you one that I created. If we want during the Q&A, I can show that afterwards. A system in terms of actually tracking your performance. And a couple of things you want to consider in your execution system as well. How are you managing distractions? Big, massive one. How are you building resiliency? How are you managing boundaries? So all of this is part of your execution system. And I'm just going to hope that you would have, made some notes and started to face the mirror on each of these 3 areas. And I do just want to have a quick pause on that idea of tracking. This one, I really and truly do believe that if your goals are not specified and if they are not tracked, I'm almost to a place where either it's not really important to you or that particular area causes some sort of fear inside you why you're not making progress. So really think about it. If you are actually scared to track your performance, and if you don't want to review your performance, you might have to make peace with, is this goal really important to me? And if it isn't, don't do it. And if it is still important to you, is it that you are feeling some kind of fear around it and you need to work on making a breakthrough in there? Okay, we are almost done, people, with the face the mirror. And the last thing I want you to do, which is, I have to say, this is probably the #1 thing that most people do not do. And this is where the money is. This is where the magic happen, is you want to ask yourself, when you go through all those questions I asked you before, what did I learn? This is massive, people. What is the learning from asking myself all those questions? So is it that I didn't have a strategy? Is it that I actually didn't even set SMART goals? Is it that I didn't manage my distractions? Or maybe I gave myself too much grace? Or maybe I let myself go down the road of burnout? So you want to make sure that you extract the learning, as I like to say, because this is where real growth happens, when we are able to face the mirror and then extract the learning. Okay, and I did say, though, that I know that in asking yourself these questions, maybe some feelings came up, but they are not meant to make you feel bad or make you beat up yourself. if when you are facing the mirror, if you get lost in any kind of negative self-talk, or you find yourself maybe even finding excuses or borderline playing the victim, you're not facing the mirror the right way. So facing the mirror is always an activity where I'm giving myself a lot of compassion, but I'm being honest. Okay, so now on to the rest of 2023. There are 19 days left, I believe. Can you believe it? But there is still something that you can do. And here are my tips, right? So I would say the first thing you want to look at is in these 19 days, what do you want to get done? Like really. And you know what, people, I know this is like corporate, this is a corporate session, but the truth is, if what you want to get done is more home stuff, personal stuff, yeah, focus on that, right? But I will say you should also look at in the business side, what should you realistically focus on? And what I mean by that is maybe there are certain KPIs that you know you can't realistically hit anymore in these 19 days because you've done the math and it's just not going to happen. But are there other business things that you can focus on? And I'll give some ideas. Maybe it is what you can do instead is use these 19 days to maybe work on reinforcing your relationships, in strengthening your network. Maybe this is a wonderful time. All those projects you worked on during the year with different people, why don't you touch base with those people and let them know, give them some positive feedback on the experience of working with them on those projects. So use the time maybe not for those goals, those things that you just know can't happen in 19 days, but there are other things you can do within the organization. It also might just be something as simple as, you know what, go and clean up that desk. You know what, yeah, just clean it up. Like those are things that you can do with these next 19 days. And it could be even something you can do with your team and make it even like a team bonding experience. If you are competitive, it could even be who could have the cleanest desk, right? So you can have some fun with it. Focus again on things that you know would add value to the team, to the environment. Also a lovely time as well to reach out to your vendors, suppliers, your customers. Maybe those are things you can do if the office is a little bit quiet and instead of, let's face it, just, chit-chatting or going on the socials, as they say, it could be a moment you say, you know what, I'm just going to do 1 hour of just calling vendors and customers, right? So you can use that time, and that is actually realistic. Instead of sort of trying to, again, beat yourself up about what you know really can't happen in the next 19 days. And the last thing I would say in these next 19 days is you can start working on building awareness around some of the things that you learned in the Face the Mirror. So I'm always going to come back to that, right? Which is if you learned in that particular activity that you weren't great at creating boundaries on your time, or you weren't great at expressing boundaries, I'm not going to say start practicing that now because that might overload your boat, but just start building awareness around that. So start, because awareness is the first step to changing a particular reaction. Start building awareness. It could even be if you knew that you take too long on certain items, you could actually start timing yourself, do certain things. So if you really want to push yourself, and again, I'm always with realistic and ambitious, you could start building awareness on certain things. So those would be my massive tips in terms of how to make sure that you end 2023 on high performance. Again, always with data, strategy, and compassion, and making sure that you stay in that sweet spot of realistic yet ambitious. And of course, as we head into 2024, soon enough, it's going to come. Please, all those learnings from your 2023 Face the Mirror exercise, keep them, have a strong, robust goal setting strategy and a goal execution system. And then, of course, you'll be able to enjoy the ride that will be 2024. Okay, thank you so much, everyone. If there are any questions, I would be more than happy to answer them. Otherwise, I will hand it over to Audra.
Thank you, Leah. I don't know if you noticed, but I was busy making notes and doing my own reflections. And Leah, I realized I have a lot of homework to do, right? Just keeping it real.
I hear you. I hear you.
So, I mean, just to summarize some of the things I took down in terms of what you said, the importance of compassion if we didn't achieve the goals, the facing the mirror, well, that's where I had a lot of work to do. Having an execution system, tracking and reviewing our goals, and then what did I learn? So really lots of powerful nuggets there, Leah. Thank you so very much. So on this note, I'm going to hand you over to Cherise, who will be moderating our Q&A. Cherise?
Thank you, Audra, and good morning to everyone. Leah, our first question is, if I set goals at the beginning of the year, when should I reset? How do I know the difference between persisting or changing?
Okay, beautiful. Ooh, thank you so much. I absolutely love this question. So, number one, I'm going to say that I like the idea of setting goals at the start of the year. I have been doing this for a long time, meaning helping people set goals and achieve them. And there is something very special about that New Year energy. You could say what you want. You can set goals at any time, of course, but there is New Year energy that we cannot deny. So absolutely hats off to you for wanting to do that. Now, in terms of knowing, do I persist or not? This is where the weekly reviews are critical. So before I used to say that they're sort of optional if you feel like doing it. Now I'm just like, no, you have to be reviewing your goals every single week. Why? Because we want to constantly be asking ourselves, well, I should say, when we do that review, we are inherently asking ourselves, is this still important to me? And am I going about it the right way? So if you are asking yourself that every single week on a particular goal, and let's just pick something that anybody could relate to. So a big one that we hear at the start of the year is you want to eat healthier. Now, number one, that's not smart in itself, but we'll use that as a guideline. So we want to turn that number one into a smart goal, eat healthier, right? We want to get some specifics around that, measurables around that. And then you want to make sure that I'm reviewing my habits that I'm making towards hitting that goal every single week. Now, I didn't get the person's name, but I will say I actually like to plan within 90-day periods. So even though you'll have an annual goal, which is like your real high level vision, I think what you should do is break that down into quarterly goals. When it's a whole year, the brain, that is just too far. And actually post-pandemic, planning out for a year has actually gotten harder for individuals versus within the next 90 days, it's very likely that you can within the next 90 days tell me what are your main events, your main holidays. You might have an idea around that. It's a little bit more realistic for the brain. So what I would say is set your goal for the year, set what you would want to achieve within that goal by the end of March, and then base your weekly reviews leading up to the end of March goal. Hope that is helpful. Okay, question. How do you keep up morale, keep discipline? Yes, anonymous, this is, hey, isn't that the question, right? So I'm going to go, first thing, I'm going to go right back up to when we were doing the face the mirror activity. And I said that asking yourself within your goal setting strategy, whose goals are you setting? I always go really deep within first, because before we get sort of like coping mechanisms to stay disciplined. Because once again, if I am setting goals that are not deeply important to me, or I don't have a deep reason why I'm doing this, it's going to be real hard to stick with it. And let me just give an example. So I'm self-employed, right? So there are certain activities for me and I love what I do. And there are activities for me that I make sure they have to happen because I definitely want to grow what I'm doing. I believe in what I'm doing. And let's say being on social media. Being on social media, believe it or not, is not any particular joy for me. Making videos is not like a joy, but what keeps me going is the belief of building my brand and being able to share the work that I do with more people versus someone who is just on social media kind of loosey-goosey, but they're like, Leah, I don't feel anything from my business. But do you really want to build your brand? You kind of have to go deep with the question. So you have to go deep with the why in terms of why do I want to achieve this particular thing? And if you that's the one. And oftentimes I'll just add on to that one in terms of staying disciplined. Number two, I will say, is the ability learning to manage distractions. So get your why, and then the other muscle, it's a mental muscle that you have to get really good at is managing distractions. I will say something. When I work with an individual and we do their calendar analysis, I do an analysis of their calendar, how they spend their time. Without a doubt, any person I meet, I can easily find, I don't want to exaggerate, but I can easily find 3 hours in a week for you to dedicate on your goals. 3 hours that are gone to, nonsense, right? Okay. Nonsense or just not managing distractions. And the truth is, the older we get, it kind of is, sometimes people are embarrassed to say, Leah, I don't really know how I have distractions. Sometimes people are just embarrassed to say that they haven't learned how to manage certain distractions. So that's a massive one in terms of staying focused on your goal. I think I saw one pop up, but I hope that was helpful. Yes.
Yes. Leah, but before we move on to the next question, how many goals should I set for the year? And is there a ratio of how many personal goals versus professional goals?
Fabulous. Great question. Now, without knowing, if I've met somebody and I don't know their goal setting strategy and their goal execution system, I actually tell people set less goals. And this one is usually really hard for people to digest because, again, we all have wants and we want to do a lot of things. And sometimes, it's a bit of a Debbie Downer because we want to make sure first that we are getting really good at the little skills it takes to execute any goal. So it's almost like I want to make sure that I'm building up those muscles before I let them take on more. So, again, coming back to your gym trainer, it's like, you want to make sure that you want that carnival body. Oh gosh, you want that carnival body. And you're like, yeah, coach, I could take more. No, let me bench press more. And the coach is like, no, not yet. Just 5 pounds for you. And you're like, no, I could handle more. And the truth is, your body can't. You have good intentions. You have the energy. Your heart is in the right place, but you're not there yet, right? You have to build up to that 25 pounds or whatever, right? So we want to make sure small. So if we're looking at chunky goals and you know that your goal execution system is not that tight yet, I'm going to say maybe three. I don't want to say 3 to 5. I'm going to say 3. And I'm talking, when I say big goals, what do I mean by that? Big goals would be things like I want to save a huge, a good amount of money that is ambitious for you. I want to go on even going on something like a dream trip vacation. There are lots of moving parts there. If it is something that is going to be like a change in your lifestyle. So if you want to eat healthier and you're not doing that, or if you want to work out more, let's say your goal is to work out 5 days a week. And right now you're struggling to hit 2 days a week. That's a lifestyle change, people. If we are talking goals that are possibly lifestyle changing, I would not recommend more than 3. Yeah, that's where I would say start, because we want to, again, build up those little muscles.
Okay, thank you so much, Leah.
Most welcome.
We have someone asking, could you share with us your contact information to connect with you for further assistance in goal setting?
Contact?
Yes. Could we get your information to connect with
Ah.
you for further assistance in
Yes,
goals?
very. So I'll put it in the. Oh no, that's not the chat. It's very simple. It is hello, HELLO at leahdesouza.com. I don't know if this is a chat. I think that's in the question. Let me put it in here. Okay, I'm gonna go back to the questions here. There's some really good. There was a good one. Where did it go? Oh yes. Could you show an example of the calendar? Well, I think that was a tracking system. On terms of a calendar, I would say right now, when it comes to this particular topic, I could talk for hours, people, because this is the point where you're going to realize Leah is a little bit, okay, she's a little bit different. I have saved all my paper calendars. This is 2004. When I say that I absolutely love the topic of calendar management, time management, whatever you want to call it, I love this topic. So I've been working on this for years. So you can use a paper calendar, that's fine. But again, you want to make sure that there are time slots. That is the most important thing. And if you cannot find a calendar that has all the time slots for your day, email me hello@leahdesouza.com and I will send you an Excel spreadsheet that has all the times in the day. You can use an Excel spreadsheet calendar, people. That's fine. Personally, I've shifted away from paper. I really like Google Calendar. Number one, it's free. It's free. A couple other things that I like on it is that you can then, of course, put everything on it, work and personal items. I do like color coding. I found that color coding as well, different tasks, is very powerful in preparing your brain for what is to come and preparing your mood and energy for what you're going to be doing next. And I also just like the feature of how you can easily move around things, because we're living in the real world. Sometimes we have to move around stuff. So I really do like Google Calendar. What I was talking about before was the tracking system. And again, you can just create a simple Excel spreadsheet to track. But for like the person who says when you start off the year, and you break down your annual goal into your 90-day plan until end of March, I highly recommend every goal that you set, especially the ones that are new habits, you want to have a tracking system. So I did, look, this is just an art page. I tell people you can go very simple. I just had an art page where I had all my goals and the frequency, and I would literally tick a box. Now, why did I do it on an art page versus an Excel spreadsheet? Because when the laptop is closed, I don't see it. And sometimes, you know what? We need it in our face. So this is a great one. You hang it up wherever you know you're going to see it every day, at every time in the day, like your bathroom. And here's the thing, if you are serious about whatever goals you're going to be setting, what's wrong with that? And if you're putting it up in your home, I'm going to hope you have people in your home who want the best for you and they want you to achieve your goals. So you're not going to feel bad about it, right? So you can put that up, stick it up, especially for things that are new habits. I do like the idea of high level visibility and high level tracking.
Thank you so much, Leah, for those tips. Our next question comes from an anonymous person, and it states, can you share a success story of yours or a client?
Oh, I will. One that comes to mind. Thank you for asking. That's very kind of you. One that comes into mind is a woman. She's a little younger than me, and mother, and she was working and starting a business. So as we say, on the side, and she came to me because she didn't know how to set goals, manage her tasks, especially having a job, kids, and a business that she was building. And this was somebody who very hardworking, very, very hardworking individual, but she had some personal goals that she wanted for herself that she knew would only add value and energy to her life. And this might sound simple to some people, but it was her goal. She was never cooking. She would not cook and eat breakfast. She would cook for her kids, but not for herself. And and definitely not even vegetables. And the interesting thing, and besides not just even planning and scheduling, and what was amazing with her is just by building the habit of setting goals, sticking with her goals, doing her weekly review, she would literally every single Sunday, because we do our reviews on a Sunday, every Sunday she would send me a copy. She would take a picture of her calendar when she planned it out for the week, and she would send a copy of that, her planned calendar every Sunday evening to me. Fast forward, today, it's amazing. She has moved on. She ended a relationship, moved on with her life. She left her job. She is now full-time. She has this new business that she is running that is on rapid expansion. And it makes me laugh. And I send messages to her all the time that she's constantly now the person who is posting pictures of herself cooking healthy breakfast for her kids and for herself and packing her lunches. And we have a laugh about it, but it is amazing the transformation that can happen when you stick to your goals, no matter how simple it may seem, no matter how simple. If it is important to you, it is going to impact on your life and all the things that you want for yourself.
Great, lovely to hear that story
Yeah.
and the outcome. Our next question is also from an anonymous person. Can you tell us tips in having an important support system in achieving your goals?
This is a lovely question. Thank you so much. And it's sometimes a hard one. And I would say for myself, in my journey, I was really alone. I think for my first, I don't know, 10 years for sure, being self-employed, I felt very lonely in a way as a self-employed individual. So in those days, we don't need to talk age and years, but let's just say in the early days, it's not like today where there was everybody on social media is like, boss and self-employed, and there was none of that. It was literally you just self-employed and you go to work every day, right? There's no glow up about it. So sometimes finding your support system could be really hard. What I will say to you is the beauty though of that social world, the online world, is if you can't find your support system within the existing humans that you actually know, I'm going to bet bottom dollar, you're going to find that online. And that is something that has happened to me. So even if you can't actually find those people right now, you still work on it. Don't get me wrong. You can work on finding them. I'll give you some ideas. I would say definitely you look online. You might have to do a bit of searching, but I have found groups online with like-minded individuals. And for me, it has really catapulted my confidence, my energy, my focus, even though these are people who I have never met and probably will never meet, but just by being with like-minded individuals. So online is a great resource if you can't find them in person. In person, I would say do a lot of testing out. So I like join different associations for whatever field you are in. If you are employed within your field, so if you're an accountant, join the accounting, I don't know, association, things like that. If you're in HR, join the HR association. Join associations in your field. There is a chance you're going to meet somebody who's just as excited about what you do. And if it is in the personal sphere, again, the same thing. If you find that you are setting a personal goal, like a health and wellness goal, and you realize, you know what, I want this to happen, but I'm lacking support because maybe you're just doing it on your own at home, you may have to invest and join a group, at least for a while. So I want to say something. Sometimes when you join these associations, it doesn't mean that it's set in stone that you have to be with them forever. It could just mean that, you know what, I'm going to invest to join a fitness group. I'm now starting off my journey and this habit is not new for me. And I've recognized this because I did my review and I faced the mirror and I know I need that extra support. You know what, if it's that important to you, join a fitness group. Maybe for 3 months, you just tell yourself, I'm just going to do it for 3 months. Doesn't have to be forever. So support it does definitely catapult your focus, energy, and confidence.
Thank you so much, Leah, for sharing how we can build our support systems. We have a comment from an anonymous person, and it reads, by year end, we're usually so burnt out. Self-care should be a goal set for ourselves so that we stay physically and mentally able all year through.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you. So when I say personal goals, for me, implied in there is what is now called the self-care. So it's actually shocking to me that people talk about self-care as like a once a week thing. You know, self-care Sunday. I absolutely do not subscribe to that. You will never hear me say self-care Sunday. I don't believe in it. I practice self-care every single day. I'm proud to say that. And people will say, well, I don't have the time. Now, self-care looks different depending on what I have going on. So I'll give you an example. Self-care for me today was literally 10 minutes where I enjoy my cup of espresso. I like coffee. So I enjoy my cup of coffee, and I'm fully present. So sometimes we have to define what will self-care look like on particular days or during particular periods. And then try to be fully present. So I absolutely agree with that person, self-care, but if your self-care practices, whatever they may be, of course, we want them to be healthy and good for us. If your self-care practices are happening only on weekends or only when you go on vacation, I will predict burnout for you by the end of the year. So that one, if you know that that's what you did, definitely the good thing here, remember, it's the learning, right? We're going to extract the learning. So then I know going into 2024, wow, I need to practice self-care, if that's what you want to call it, on a regular basis. And I actually say on a daily basis.
Great insights there. Following on from that question, how aspirational should a goal be? How do we balance it to ensure that it is not a stress goal?
Yes, beautiful. Yeah, so again, we're coming back to that concept I like to talk about, which is finding that sweet spot between realistic yet ambitious. Now, when we're now starting off, so if we're now starting off, you're setting your 2024 goals. This is why, again, we're going to go back to, I'm going to bring it down to a 90-day just until March, end of March, and I'm going to review, because there's a chance until you get really good at this, because this is why we have to have a lot of compassion. You're not going to be great at goal setting and goal execution from the get-go. That we have to kind of make peace with that, right? So we have to make sure that I'm doing my reviews to see, oh, do I need to actually kind of change this goal? And again, this is a moment of radical honesty. Where is it that I need to go easy on myself? I need to be realistic on myself, or maybe do I just need to keep being a little kind of tough on myself? So there's a really, nobody could answer that for you. But what you want to do by doing the reviews on a weekly basis is you want to start to train yourself to listen to yourself. So like to really start being in touch with yourself. How am I doing? Am I giving this my best shot? Really? Or do I need to push a little bit more? Do I need to pull back? Do I need more support? We want to keep asking ourselves this question on a weekly basis so that you do get really good at being realistic yet ambitious with yourself.
Thank you. Our next question is, how can I stop going on a downward spiral when I realize I am not on track and miss some of my major goals that I've set?
Mm-hmm. You know, the first thing I do feel for this person, the first thing when we're doing this reflection is, did something happen that really turned my world upside down? So, you know, life happens, right? And it could be that there is something that happened that has just turned your world upside down. Maybe it's not a big deal for other people. Maybe there was a change in leadership and you're still just trying to adjust to the new leadership style. And for you, it's taking a little longer. Maybe there's a new program. So you worked in the organization and you were using a particular program for a long time, and they change all the software. And you just find, you're struggling more than others. It could be something as again, we're not comparing to other people. Or maybe it is something in your personal world that has happened, right? You've lost a loved one. You now have to care for an elder in your family. So there sometimes are really things that rock our world. And we might have to pause and say, okay, this is really causing me a bit of a shift right now. And I might have to, change the sails a little bit. This is a tough one. I'm actually experiencing right now with a client of mine who has been let go from the company she's worked with for a very long time, very, very long tenure. And we've actually decided that we're going to put her goals on pause because she needs to adjust emotionally right now, and she needs to feel all the feels. She has to go through the grief, that is a grief in itself. She needs to feel the feels. So I think that's the first thing I'm going to say is, have you gone through something that has kind of rocked your world? That's a big, big one. And if it's that, you know what, you might have to change the sales, you might have to press pause on certain things, or you might just have to change the actual goal itself. And that's just life sometimes, right? And hopefully it will not matter to the outside world if you change the sales or you change course completely, because remember, you are setting goals for yourself, not for anybody else, right? So I think that for me is a big one. I would say if it is that you're on a downward, change course. Second thing is, if it's not something like that happened, but you just realized that you just can't stick with it and that is causing a downward, sometimes it could be something as simple as you might just need to work with a coach. And I'm going to give an example, if it's okay, how much time we have. So I like to think, okay, I'm pretty good at this stuff, but I have set this year I had set new wellness plans for myself. And the exercise movement, I call it movement. In the movement area, I was fine. And then in nutrition area, I kept kind of hitting the wall. Like I was like, Leah, you should know this. Leah, you're usually good at this. And then literally last month or 6 weeks ago, I'm like, Leah, you're not making progress because you need help. It's that time again. And I was like, I'm talking to myself. I'm sorry. I was like, you're there again. Sometimes it happens and it's not a sign of failure. I always remind people the highest performers in the world get help. So if we think Roger Federer has a coach, people, Roger Federer, tennis player, okay? He has a coach. If we look at high performers, and I always like to look at athletes, the highest performing athletes have several coaches. They get advice from many different people for a reason, because they want to make sure that they're always at peak performance. So sometimes it's a matter of saying, whoa, if there's a particular area that I literally keep bumping my head on, you might have to just get help. And again, when we are getting support, it doesn't mean we get support forever. So the coach that I'm working with right now in this nutrition area, because believe me, I watch all the YouTube videos and all of these things on the topic. So, I've done all of that, right? I've just committed to work with her for 3 months. That's it. And I'll just see if I want to continue after that. So it could also be a sign that you might need support. And that is nothing to feel bad about, because the highest performers in the world get constant help.
That is so true, Leah. So moving on to our next question, what are your thoughts on vision boards?
That's so interesting. This afternoon, I am going to be doing some work with a lovely foundation for some young people, and we are going to be building their vision boards for 2024. So I think vision boards can be absolutely powerful. Definitely if you are a visual person. So if you know yourself to be inspired by visuals, I think then it's going to be good for you. If you've never tried vision boards, why not? As part of your goal setting and goal execution strategy, why not? Definitely in the area of high performance, we have to try different tactics. So if I come back to that idea of how do I stay motivated, where is it? How do I keep my morale? If you've never tried a vision board, why not try it out? But I always add on something to the end of the vision board activity. A vision board exercise is nothing if you do not have that execution strategy to follow it. It just turns out to be a lovely emotional experience. It kind of pump up, right? But make sure if you're doing a vision board that you have a lovely, robust execution strategy to support it.
Perfect.
Thank you, Leah. Very good. So for our final question this morning, can you remind us about the goal setting strategy? What are we to do? And give us some tips on ensuring that we're able to set realistic goals as we move ahead.
In terms of the goal setting strategy, so I spoke to different buckets. Now, let's last question. So if I were to say there are 12 actually buckets that you have to consider, but I'm just going to speak to what I call the fundamental 4 and then maybe 2 others. So the fundamental 4 always have to do with yourself, because anything you want to achieve comes down to your actual physical and mental capabilities. So every year you really should be setting some goals in these 4 buckets. My fundamental 4 are in the area of movement, which is exercise, moving your body, nutrition. Oops, something changed there. Movement, nutrition. Then you want mental strength. So mental strength is your ability to be present, your ability to be resilient, your ability to be creative. And there are different ways that you can build mental strength. I would just give a tip. Number 1 way is by practicing mindfulness of some kind. And the 4th area is fun. So some people might actually, that might be your what you might call self-care. So you actually do want to set goals in those 4 areas. And then the 2 other areas I would say you want to set goals in every year would have to be definitely in your career, or if you're self-employed, in your business. So in that area. And then there is one area, I'm going to put it out there, which has to do with your image. And I know last question, I don't want people to get sidetracked, but your image is not about having an image based on society, but your image is more about how you express yourself to the world. And I think more and more, the times we are living, when expressing yourself has a lot to do with being in alignment to yourself and being true to yourself. And I think that's an important thing. So for me, I'm going to say movement, nutrition, mental strength, fun or self-care, your image, how you express yourself in your speech and your look, and then in your business or your career. So those are your 6 areas. Believe me, that's already going to probably be a lot to run with for 2024.
Thank you so much, Leah. And that completes our Q&A segment. And I will now hand back over to Audra. Audra?
Great. Thank you so much, Cherise, for moderating. And Leah, thank you for bringing your energy and the information to all of us. As I said, I was taking copious notes, so I'm now on 2 sides of my page, lots of homework, but really powerful stuff. And you have clearly equipped us with strategies that can really ensure we end 2023 on a high and really begin 2024 reflective, and with strategies and tips and techniques so that we could really reach those goals. So once again, Leah, thank you so very much. And to you, our audience, our Massy family, without whom these webinars would not be possible, we really want to thank you for taking the time to join us today as 2023 winds down and you prepare for 2024. And once again, I really want to encourage you to really utilize these tips and techniques. Certainly with these nuggets, we are well equipped for whatever we face. All, in the gambit of ensuring that in doing this and goal setting, because we've mentioned it, doing our own self-care. And as Leah said, I love it. No, not just self-care Sunday, right? So lots for us to take away. So ladies and gents, we've come to the end of our webinar. On behalf of MLI, our IT team, and the rest of the Massy leadership, we want to thank you for taking this opportunity and for all your support to our programs, our webinars during this year. Your continued attendance, engagement, and feedback is truly appreciated, and we look forward to having more sessions in 2025. But sorry, well, 2024 and 2025. I've set goals very far. I'm all into 2025. And Leah, we certainly will invite you back in 2024. So as we move into the new year, we want to remind you to look out for programs such as Stepping into Supervisory Management, Digital Marketing, Leadership with a Growth Mindset, Listen Like a Leader, and so much more, as well as our one-to-one coaching, right? You would have seen a flyer advertising our coaching. This and other information can be found on our website. So until next time, I want to take this moment to wish you and your families a very Merry Christmas, a bright and prosperous New Year, and continued blessings to you and yours. Remember to please keep safe and most importantly, keep leveling up. All the best. See you in 2024. Take care, everybody.